The Chazal in the Gemara Mabasra and in Avos Reb Nosson tell us the Yishai is cool in Nechamta. Yishai is all Psukim Nevuah of Nechama that's going to come for Klal Yisrael. Ad Kedei Kach, in Avos Reb Nosson it says that Haray Yishai b'Chaloim Yitzapel l'Shalom. Yitzapel l'Mashiach. I'm sorry, Yitzapel l'Mashiach. Someone who sees Yishai in a dream should be Yitzapel l'Mashiach, meaning it's cool in Nechamta. Yishai is all the Nechamas that's coming for Klal Yisrael. Now, in the Psukim in Yishai, particularly in Parakid Aleph, that's the famous Psukim that says V'gar Zev and Keves. Right, it talks about like a shino in the Seder Ateva, like wild animals will live with domesticated animals and they won't harm them at all. It talks about, it's on the wall. Right? Yeah, it's on the wall. V'gar Zev and Keves, that's Yishai Yid Aleph. The end of Yishai is full of more nevuos that describe, all sorts of, like so to speak, shinuyim. The Psukim in Yishai and Yid Aleph, the famous ones is V'gar Zev and Keves. V'namerim Gedi Yirvatz V'egel Kfir Maria Yachtav V'nar Kata Noigbam. Talks about a child being able to herd wild animals and wild animals laying with domesticated animals, and it's all going to be great. Now, there's a big machlekes Rishonim how to learn these psukim. The early Rishonim, like Reb Yosef, Evan Bilam, and Reb Moshe Gikutila, these are Spanish Rishonim, early Spanish Rishonim, learned the Chazon Yishayahu as follows. They say that Chazon Yishayahu is not referring to Mashiach. All these Kul and Nechamta that we're talking about are not referring to Mashiach. It's because if you look at the dates when Yeshaya Navi lived, Yeshaya lived almost 140 years before the Churban. So he was living in a time when there was Sancheirav had come, had taken the Aseres HaShvatim away. The big patch that Klal Yisrael had undergone was not the Churban. The patch that Klal Yisrael had undergone was losing the Aseres HaShvatim. And the Chazon Yeshaya, the Nevuah of Nechama that Yeshaya was saying, was that the Aseres HaShvatim are going to come back. That's how these Rishonim learned the Chazon Yeshayahu. Now,
1 second.
The future and these marvelous things that are going to happen. These Rishonim are pointing out that Yeshaya lived. He predated the Churban. Yeshaya wasn't talking about the Churban. Yeshaya was talking about the Churban of his day, and he was saying that there's going to be like a future, and some of the Aseres HaShvatim are going to come back. Now, Lamaisa, the Ramban and the Rambam strongly argue on these Rishonim. The Ramban is very strong in Sefer Geula. The Ramban says that look at the proof. He says, how many people from Aseres HaShvatim made it back? You're talking about maybe a few stragglers came back from Ashur, they came back to Yisrael, some good things happened to them. That can't be, he says, what Yeshaya, all these descriptions of the Gula, and I think great things are going to be. Yeshaya cannot possibly be talking about a few stragglers who made it back home. He says, Yeshaya describes all sorts of Shinei Ateva. Yeshaya describes V'gar Zev and Keves. Yeshaya describes all sorts of things that are going to change. That never happened. He says, if Yeshaya's words are to be taken at face value, that it's going to happen, it can't be Yeshaya was describing that. So Elamai says the Ramban, Yeshaya is talking about Lasad Lava. Yeshaya is talking about Taki Yemaisa Mashiach. And by Yemaisa Mashiach, the Ramban, and he says this in many different places in the Svarim, there's going to be a real Shinei Ateva, and the world is going to be a different world. That's what the Ramban says. Now the Rambam, in his own way, also argues in these Rishonim. The Rambam says that it can't be they're referring to Sancheirav. They're not referring to Aseres HaShvatim. The Rambam says it's referring to Yemaisa Mashiach. But the Rambam says that there's not going to be a Shinei Ateva. So how does he learn it? The Rambam says that these words of the Nevuah of Yeshaya are to evoke a picture, an image. They're not literal. Yeshaya didn't mean V'gar Zev and Keves, like it's going to be a Zev and Keves for real. You're going to walk in, you're going to see a lion and a lamb laying together. Yeshaya meant to invoke a picture of tranquility, of peace that's going to, envelop Klal Yisrael, but not specific to the words he says. Now, this machlekes of how to learn these psukim is essentially machlekes in the Gemara. The Gemara in several different places throughout Shas, and Shabbos in a few places, in Sanhedrin, elsewhere. The Gemara has a machlekes between Shmuel and Rav Avo, I believe. Rav Avo says that Yemaisa Mashiach. I'm sorry, it's Rav Chia bar Abba Rav Yechanan. Rav Chia bar Abba Rav Yechanan says, Kol hanaviyim kulam lo nisnabu el Yemaisa Mashiach. All the marvelous nevuos that exist in the Nevi'im, and especially in the Psukim of Yeshaya, we're all talking about Yemaisa Mashiach. What Olam Haba is going to look like? That's unimaginable. We don't have the kalim to imagine that. That we can't even think about. Comes along Shmuel, and Shmuel says no. Shmuel says, the only difference between Yemaisa Mashiach and Olam Hazeh is Shibud Malchus. We're not going to be subject to being ruled by other nations. We'll have our own Malchus, our own rule. We'll be back at home, but nothing more than that. And this is a machlekes that's repeated many, many times throughout the Gemara. The Gemara on Shabbos, for example, says a Mishnah on Shabbos about carrying a sword on Shabbos. Right? And the Mishnah says a person shouldn't go out. Carrying a sword is not a tachshit. Why? because the pasuk says, "Lo yisagah the cherev la'asad lavoi," swords are going to be out of business. It says they're going to hammer out their swords into plowshares, meaning swords and stuff like this. Weapons of war are going to be a negative. Says the Gemara. This is delay Shmuel, because Shmuel holds anybody makes Mashiach al-Shib Malchus. And many times the Gemara chasses over this machlekes of these two days of what Yemos Mashiach is going to look like. Is it going to be a Shina Ateva, something different than the Nevi'im were describing, or is it going to be anybody Yemos Mashiach al-Shib Malchus Bavad and whatever? Now the problem is as follows, that the Rambam kind of has a stira. The Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, when he talks about Mashiach, and I want to read a little bit from him. The Rambam seems to strongly favor Shmuel's shita, that nothing's going to change. Yemos Mashiach is just Shibud Malchus. The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim, Al Yal Al Alev, Yemos Mashiach Yivatel Dav Min Hagah Shalaylam. Don't think anything's going to change. A year Shum Chiddush, B'Maisa Bereshis, that Teva is going to change. Elam Kim Hagah Nahog. The world's going to go the way it goes. V'Zesh Nemer B'Yishaya. This that the Psuchim say in Yishaya, V'Gor Zev Keves, the Namer Mgdi Yerbats, Mashal V'Chida. It's a mashal. It's painting a picture. It doesn't mean absolutes. Inyan Hadavar Shi Yisrael Yoshvin Levetach Im Rishi Olam HaMashulam B'Zev Namer means Klal Yisrael is going to be able to coexist with people who are to them like lions and wolves. Then he says, "V'chein kol kiyotze be'elu advar maksuvim b'inyan HaMashiach mashalom heim." All these words that you'll see in the Nevi'im that describe Yemos Mashiach in these glowing terms, it's a mashal. That's what the Rambam says. Then the Rambam continues, "Amru Chachamim," and he literally quotes Shmuel, "Ein bein ha'olam hazel Yemos Mashiach ela shibud malchis bilvad." That's what he says. Then he continues, fine. Then he says, "L'nesavu Nevi'im ha'chachamim Yemos Mashiach." This, great hope, this great wish that the Klal Yisrael has to Yemos Mashiach, it's not so they could rule the whole world. They could be roided the goyim, punish the goyim. Not so we could eat, drink, and be merry. We should have the freedom to be Isaac in the Torah and the Chachmas HaTorah. There'll be no interruption, nothing that shepherds us. So we can be Zeichet HaElam Haba. And then the Rambam continues, but I say, man, fine. Now this is the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, where he talks about Mashiach. The Rambam seems to quote Shmuel and say very clearly, Mashiach is the same, there's no Shinei HaTeva. The Psukim in Yishaya are Chid of a mashal, they're describing they're painting a picture, but they're not actually saying reality that the world's going to change. Now the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva says something different. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva says as follows, he says, Kvar Heidiu Chacham Rishonim, Shetoivas HaElam Haba, Ein koyach ba'adam la'asiga al-burya. No one could really understand what Elam Haba is going to look like. Ve'ein yodea godla v'yafya v'atzma ela HaKadosh Baruch Hu levadei. Nobody could understand the beauty and the greatness and the majesty of Elam Haba, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'shakol ha'toivis shemisnabim b'hem ha'neviim. Now pay attention to this line. All the nevuah about good that the Nevi'im prophesied, the Yisrael einem elam ledvarim shal guf shenenem b'hem Yisrael b'Yemos Mashiach. That's only referring to all the nevuahs that talked about wonderful things. He's talking about what Klal Yisrael is going to have during Yemos Mashiach. Bizman shetachzar mimshal Yisrael, when Klal Yisrael gets back their kingdom. Avol toivus chaya elam haba, ein le'erech, we have nothing to compare it to, v'dimyon, and the Nevi'im didn't even talk about it. Now all the Nesei Kelim and the Rambam, the Kesef Mishnah, the Lechem Mishnah, all jump in over here and say the Rambam was literally quoting the two different mandamim that associate each other. Rav Ami, who was the first mandam, I forgot the name, says, what did he say? Rav Vo says, that Kol Nevi'im le'nesnabel Yemos Mashiach, all the Nevi'im were describing Yemos Mashiach, but Elam Haba ayin le'rasa le'kim zulasecha. That's out of grasp. And then the Gemara follows it up and says, but Shmuel, this is chaylik on Shmuel, because Shmuel says Em ben Elam Hazel Yemos Mashiach. The Rambam in Hilchos Malachim paskins like Shmuel. He says literally Shmuel's words. Em ben Elam Hazel Yemos Mashiach l'shibin malchis b'vad. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, he brings a Ravo that it's going to be like the description. It's mamash lahadya. He takes literally both sides from the Gemara and quotes them in two different places. All the Nesei Kelim ask this and don't have to root him. Because Mishnah bleibt shver, the Mishnah bleibt shver. The Goin points it out in I forgot what the Goin is. I think the Goin's in Bir Argadis. The Goin points it out and he says, his mahalach to explain it. But it's something that needs, some sort of havana. Now, what's said about this is maybe a little bit of an oversimplification. And I'm not sure if it mamash stims with every, pitch in the Gemara and every detail in the Rambam, but the Maral, the Ramchal, each one in their own way, and the Sifsei Chaim is Meirach on this a lot, explain it in this type of fashion. And I think this explains what the big she'ifa, what the big looking forward to Mashiach is, and why it's something that people in cattle cars would make up songs to, and etc. is as follows. That Yemos Mashiach, according to the Rambam's view, does not involve any shina teva. Nothing's going to change in the world. Physically, we'll be the same people. You're going to be the same person. The world is the same place. There's still jobs that have to be done. There's still, everything has to be olam kimin haginog, like the Rambam says. But imagine if there was, for lack of a better word, pasha, clarity of vision. Imagine if HaKadosh Baruch Hu was nizgala to the level where it was easy to see what's important, what's not important, what's big, what's small, what's fake, what's real. And you imagine if there was no Hester. What we live with now is a complete Hester. It's almost impossible to see, meaning like it's pasha, like a euphemism, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? I think Voltaire, a famous French philosopher, once said, humans are never so evil as when they're evil in the name of God. Meaning, everything is so confusing. Sometimes you don't even know when your mitzvahs are averis, your averis are mitzvahs. There's 1,000 different drachim. There's no clarity as to what's real, what's important, what's fake. Us as we are, the people that we are, if things would be clear, we'd perform 1,000 times better. We don't require a shina teva to perform better. We're good at some. We have the right ideas. It's just confusion. We don't always know what's right. It's hard to know what's right. It's almost impossible to know what's right. So, Yemos HaMashiach, according to the Rambam's view, is just clarity. Hashem is present, Hashem is visible to everybody, then it's not hard to do what's right. Chavetz Chaim used to say, and this was the Chavetz Chaim's version, the Rishon Salanta used to say, that the Welt says, Halavai she'yavim Mashiach. We wish Mashiach's going to come. Onichzog, pen yavim Mashiach. Mashiach's going to come. And he was masber. Why? Because you used up all your opportunities to do things, with Yigia, with Amelis, to figure it out, to work through the kinks. You used that all up already, that you're ready for Easy Street, you're just going to see it all in front of you. The Chavetz Chaim, in his way, when he would say of this, the Chavetz Chaim would say that Batzim it's Mesiris Nefesh for you to want Mashiach. Because all the Lefum Tzara Agra and everything that you get schar for is gone. It's going to be too easy. Like Kilo Hashem's at the table, of course you're going to perform better. It's not, you're going to see everything's going to be clear. It's not going to be a kunst to perform well. Nothing's going to be hard. So
that's not Olam Kimin Haginog.
So Olam Kimin Haginog means the physical world, the teva, doesn't change. All of us, be'atzem, be'teva, are very, very good people, right? And Lu Yitzor, everything would be clear to us, and there's no emotion, when everything's clear, when the hierarchy is clear, and you know exactly what's what, and everything's very clear to you, it's not difficult to be good. There's almost no one who wants to be bad. It's not difficult to be good. It's very easy to follow all the rules.
What's the whole point, though?
So that's what the Chavetz Chaim said. It's Mesiris Nefesh. The Chavetz Chaim says for a Yid to want Mashiach, it's Mesiris Nefesh. You're giving up on the Lefum Tzara Agra.
Yeah, I one for Chavetz Chaim. Tell you about shears.
Yeah.
No, tell you
okay. So the Rambam says that we're going to have an opportunity to earn Elam Haba. It's going to be really easy to do mitzvahs all day and all night. The Rambam says that Lahadi himself, that it's a collection time. Meaning you can have Yemos HaMashiach, it's easy street, you know exactly what's what's right, what's wrong.
You'll have the whole Beis HaMikdash?
You'll have a Beis HaMikdash, you'll have Karbanis, meaning basically...
What's the person's life now?
The tafkid is not for Yemos HaMashiach. So the Gemara actually darshans, the pasuk says, it's a pasuk in Mishlei, Shlomo Melech says, put in all the work before the days after Ein Bem Chayfetz comes. Before the days when there's no purpose comes. And the Gemara darshans, the Gemara Sanhedrin darshans, Eli Yemos HaMashiach. Meaning the work has to be put in before them, because Taki, Yemos HaMashiach is easy street. Meaning you'll still get schar from mitzvahs. Maybe not as much schar, maybe not, you know what I'm saying? Of course, if you do a mitzvah, put on Tefillin, you're still going to get schar, but the whole issue with doing what's right is gone. That's out of the picture. So the desire for Yemos HaMashiach is to have that clarity. Now, that's what I think Mashiach vibes is. Meaning, you talk about why people in the cattle cars were singing about Ani Mam V'Yes HaMashiach, is because they were living Yemos HaMashiach already. Your ticket was punched. You knew exactly where you were going. You knew you're being Meiser Nefesh and Kedushim Shemayim. You know you've reached the ultimate pinnacle of living as a Jew. Then there's takano. I mean, the lack of clarity and obfuscation is what is not Yemos HaMashiach. These are people who are Yemos HaMashiach. Meaning, when you're going and you know where it is and you're meeting HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you see it very clearly, that's Yemos HaMashiach. And the truth is that there's people in every dar of all different stripes, not Afka Grace Rebbes and not Afka Grace Rosh Hashivas, simple people who have it, who are Mashiach's Yidden, meaning who are totally focused and totally clear-minded about what's important and what's not important. And by them you'll see like a certain easiness, there's a certain relaxed attitude. Like a lot of the struggle that regular people, that we all have, is gone. It becomes very simple to do what's right when you're there. So the in the Rambam's world, how we make sense of this all, is that, physical teva is not going to change. It's not going to be, physical teva is not going to change. There's still going to be goyim, There's still going to be superpowers. We might not even be a superpower.
Is there going to be Torah?
Not really, meaning if Hashem's light and closeness is shining so strong, it's not really makom for that. So it's unclear when exactly that happens. The Gemara in Sukkah and Daf Nun Beis says the Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu to kill the Yetzer Hara. But it's a machlokes when that's going to happen. Some say it's this time, some say it's going to happen later. But according to this understanding of it, the shechita is euphemistic. Meaning not shechita like, I'll show that. And shechita meaning it becomes obsolete. It's like, I don't know, it's like a phone book when computers came out. Like, it's obsolete. It does you don't have to deal with it. It's not relevant anymore. And that Yemos HaMashiach that everyone's, hoping for and wishing for is that clarity, is the ability to be close without any impediments, without any lack of clarity. And that's what we daven for. If you look all throughout davening, Lamashal, I was thinking in Avarabba we say, how does it continue? When does it get to Mashiach? What do you say? Continue. Once we ask for clarity, for zatkite, for being comfortable and open and close to the mitzvahs that we do and to really connecting to them and knowing what's right and what's clear, then we talk about Haviyenu. We're ready to go home. We're ready. That's Yemos HaMashiach. By Yom Tov, we always say Sabeinu Mituvecha. Right, the ultimate tefillah that we daven is Sabeinu Mituvecha. We want to be able to feel good about it. V'lei nevosh. We don't want to be embarrassed. Right? We say it in Rosh Hashanah davening, Kippur davening. It's the same tefillah again and again that we ask for. Yemos HaMashiach is the ability to feel it's easy, it's good, it's clear, it's understandable. There's no questions, there's no answers. The whole thing, L'mashal, the Chazal say in a medrash that L'asad Lavai, Asad Kol HaNeviim Lehivatal. All the Nevi'im are going to become batal. Now, other Rishonim ask, I think the Ravid, the Rambam brings this down that Asad Kol Nevi'im Levatal, and the Ravid I think asks that, what do you mean? Why would any Nevi'im Levatal? All the Nevi'im, all Chavtal Svarim are going to last forever. And there are those who explain that the Gemara Babasar says that Ilmale Lechatu Yisrael, if Klal Yisrael didn't sin, they would only have had Nevuas Moshe v'Yeshua. Just the Torah and Yeshua. Now Yeshua, because it's a continuation of Moshe, Yeshua being the ultimate Talmud was just a continuation of Moshe, we just had the Torah. And the Mefarshim HaMasber, because Be'etzem, everything that's in the Nevi'im, and everything that's in every Musar Shmuz, and everything that's in every, steiging that a person has, is all in the Torah, it's all there. It's just because it's not clear that you're not able to see it there always. And for that, every dar needed its Nevi'im, and its Meirah Hira, and its Darshanim, and its Bali Musar, and its thing, to just bring it out. When the Rambam says, Asad Kol Nevi'im Levatal, it doesn't mean Levatal, they'll still exist. The books will still be there. It won't be relevant, meaning when you're living in that Ramah where everything's clear, so the Torah itself will be enough to engender the clarity that a person needs. So ultimately what it comes down to, according to the Rambam, and this is something that, it's hard to say that it's miyashiv every single Gemara and you can make every single Rishon mean the same thing. There is still plenty of machleksim, but l'chayr the shavu l'chol nefesh amongst the Rishonim of what we're hoping and looking for to Mashiach is clarity. Is pasha being close enough and being able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu enough that there's no more difficulty. There's no more need for such a fight. It becomes very easy to be good and to do everything right. If I could just say one story, my wife's grandfather, Mike Tress, he went once to a Friday night shir in Tehillim from Rosh Feivel Mendelovich. He used to give a Friday night Chumash shir, and he said over by the Chumash shir that last night he had a dream. What do you say? You know the story?
My great grandfather.
Oh, nice. Okay, look at that. It's in the book, the story, but he said he had a dream that Mashiach came, and on the day they were sitting all the Gedolim, Reb Aaron, Reb Moshe, Reb Yaakov, all the Gedolim, and Mashiach asked him, who's that clean-shaven guy in the back? And Mike Tress was in the audience when he told the story, so I guess it was like a way of complimenting him. He said, I told Mashiach, he's the person who brought you. Now, forget about the story, it's okay, it's nice, it's whatever, it was a compliment, but ultimately it's this idea of Mashiach, and it's people who live with a total clarity of vision. It already exists. A person could already get himself on that track, on the Mashiach track already now, and that's why we constantly remind ourselves that we're hoping and we're waiting for it, and Taka, we should all be zeicha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.